Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here, and welcome back to the deep dive into the realms of Four Against Darkness. So far in this series, we have taken a look at the Four Against Darkness, the main game. We've taken a look at a few of the supplemental books so far, Wayfarers and Adventurers, Concise Collection of Classes, Twisted Minions, and Twisted Dungeons. And if you recall in the last episode, I said that, this pack here, these 5 books would be a really great kind of starter set. And I think next steps would be to maybe take a look at these 3 books, especially for your lower level characters, your lower level parties. And so we are just going to take a really brief look at these 3 books here. And this book here is called Layers, Dens, and Burrows. It's short adventures for Four Against Darkness for characters of any level. Sometimes you do not have time to play a full dungeon, or maybe you just want something different between 2 long missions. Layers, Dens, and Burrows is a collection of short encounters that are just perfect for that. The 9 adventures presented here are for parties of any level, and they include On Our Way Home, The Lair of the Grey Orcs, Nest of the Manticore, An Old Man Gave Me This Map, The Nixie in the Wine Skin, The Ivy-Colored Hole, The Hyena Pack, The Mayhem Machine, and The Dark Unicorn. So these are, as the book suggests, these are just small little adventures that you can play in between 2 longer dungeons. Kind of think of these as little side quests maybe that your characters at your party encounter on their travels from one dungeon to the next. I do think it would be cool, and I don't think there is yet, but an official expansion, an official supplement for that travel time from dungeon to dungeon. I haven't encountered anything like that yet. There are still quite a few books that I need to read and discover. I know there is a fan expansion that we will be taking a look at for doing overland and overland adventures and connecting your dungeons. So eventually we will get to that. But it would be nice to have just a small book of settlement adventures, of traveling, kind of like something you would see in Warhammer Quest or Darklight Memento Mori, something like that. But this kind of gets you a little ways there. You can kind of think of these as, like I said, little side quests to undergo. And so you will get a little explanation of exactly what this is and how to use this book. And then you're right into the adventures here. And some of these do use maps that you will be drawing based on your rooms and your corridors from the base game. And quite a few of these don't use any maps at all. A couple of them, I believe, are just kind of boss encounters. You've stumbled upon a monster wandering out in the wilderness, and you fight the monster. Or maybe you've located a certain treasure map that an old man gives you, and you find the entrance into a small dungeon and try to go through that dungeon to find out what the treasure map leads to. This particular adventure, the first one, you don't have to play them in any order. There are 9, and you could play them in any random order. I would say you should go through, like with a party, go through each one time per party. I think that would be a good way to use this book, to experience this book. Then when that party retires or they all die, you could roll up a new party, and then you could reintroduce this book into that particular campaign. And that goes for the other books we're going to take a look at today too. This book here, you do right after, or this adventure here, you do right after a particular dungeon. And so I believe on that one you don't heal up all the way. And then you have the Lair of the Grey Orcs, so an orc themed adventure, and you do have some new charts in this book to roll on. Nest of the Manticore. This is one that I have done already, and this is kind of just a boss fight against a Manticore, but the Manticore will have some different complications, so you could do this adventure here like 6 times and have a different experience each time. And then you could also get what kind of Manticore it is, from a standard, a shooting, a mace tail, roaring Manticore, 2-headed or fire-breathing Manticore. And then there also is some special loot that you can gain there. This is an old man, gives you a map, and this is kind of a small little, I think it's like a 6-room or 7-room dungeon that you go on, and you just draw 7 rooms from your normal chart of rooms and corridors, and then in the 7th room you face off against a boss, and then you see exactly what the map had in store for you. And then you have the Nixie in the water skin. This is a little kind of a little side quest that you will go on in an underwater cave. The ivy covered hole. I have not read much about this one yet. It looks like it's a little kind of a little den. I'm trying to keep most of these surprises until I go through them. The hyena pack. Gonna fight against some hyena men. There's the mayhem machine. I don't know much about this one either. I'm keeping it as much of a secret as possible until I get to experience, and the same goes for the dark unicorn. But this is just a nice little book to add some variety, and it's not very expensive, and just you can just kind of get a little bit of a different spice when you're playing from one game to the next. And that kind of goes the same for these two books also, Dark Waters and Caves of the Kobold Slave Masters. So these are little solitaire adventure books for parties of levels 1 and 2. So if most of your characters are up to level 2, or all of them are up to level 2, you can play these. There are also ways to, if you have characters of level 3, that you can kind of tweak the rules to play with. Now, I know that some people have complained about 4 Against Darkness being too easy. And during this last game, the last few games that I have played, I have encountered that. But like any game of this kind, it's easy as long as you roll lots of 5s and 6s. If you have terrible luck rolling dice and you're rolling all kinds of 1s and 2s while you are playing, like in combat, and you're just bad at doing your saving throws, well then a game that is easy can very quickly become difficult. I've had a pretty easy time with this party that I'm playing right now, going through these basic adventures in the base game. Although the Twisted Minions and Twisted Dungeons can add some good complications to that mix. But I am not finding it a problem that it's too easy. I would rather, for me personally, I would rather a game be a little too easy than a little too hard, because I can always just choose to retire these characters and start over. There are ways that you can make the game harder, but do know that if you're looking for something really challenging, this may not be the game for you until you get into some of the higher level play and introduce maybe some more of the complex scenario situations or monsters and that kind of thing. So these two adventures are for, like I said, levels 1 and 2. This is written by Jeffrey Baker. This book here was written by Andrea. And these are books that have a 2-part adventure, and each part is about 1 hour to 2 hours, and you can you link the two together. You play the 2 parts of this adventure as a little kind of mini adventure, mini campaign. And the first part of each book has a pre-made dungeon, and you just work your way through it, going from section to section. You can cross off the section as you go through it, and as you read the book, it's going to tell you what you discover in each section. There's going to be traps. There are pre-made encounters, pre-made things that you will discover, that you will find, that you can search for. And so this is a game, in this part of the game, you are not going to be rolling very much on the random tables. You're going to have playing through a bespoke, created, unique scenario. So I would say that these 2 books are really good to play once per party. You're not going to be returning to these books because you will have already experienced what is in here with each party. Think of these as kind of like, when you start a new character, when you start a new MMO, when you start a new game of ESO or something with your level 1 hero. And these might be kind of like the first 2 little quests that you go on in a new MMO or something like that. This particular book here, Dark Waters, does introduce a new character class, and that is the swashbuckler, a kind of sword-fighting pirate guy. But yep, so like I said, chapter 1 here is going to be that pre-made dungeon, and you are going to be going through the encounters and the order that you choose to encounter them while working your way through the dungeon. And then the second part of this adventure, chapter 2, you are going to be using you're going to be a random dungeon using the tables from the base game to create your dungeon, but you will also have a certain number of new tables to roll on for new minions, new things to search for, new types of rooms, new types of bosses, and new types of vermin and that kind of thing. So, and new traps, new special events. So this does add some variety to low level play. And the same can be said for Caves of the Cobalt Slave Masters here. It's the same kind of setup, a 2-part adventure for low-level characters. You're going to get really basic how to play this adventure, and then you're going to get your map here. This is the first part of the game with your pre-made dungeon. Get your little introduction, your hook there, your story hook, and then it goes through all of the different sections that you will encounter. You encounter them in the order that you choose to walk through the maze. It has some really cool art there. It looks a lot like Devilman, doesn't it? Go Nagai's Devilman. And then you get into your chapter 2, and chapter 2 is the same as the other one, where you will be looking at your base book to determine your random map, but then you will be using different tables to populate that map with new things. And this one actually has a chapter 3, so I have not really experienced this book yet. So in chapter 3, I believe it is like a boss fight. That's right. So yeah, I mean, these 3 books here are not very expensive, and so if you were to really want to dive deeper into low-level For Against Darkness play, I would say that these 3 purchased together would make a great packet that would give you quite a few hours of playtime and entertainment, and just would allow a little more variety for when you roll up some new heroes, when you roll up a new party, some variety for low-level play to experience. So, all right, well, that's it. Just a short video today. Next time, I think we're going to take a look at some cool little fanzine stuff. I think we're going to take a look at the Lantern. These are For Against Darkness zine, issues 1 and 2. I recently purchased this pack from the official Facebook group. So I think we'll take a look at those next. So, all right, guys, well, I hope you are continuing to enjoy this series on For Against Darkness, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.